Hello friends, and welcome to this Bible study on the Lord's Supper. My name is Moke, and we're going to talk about the Lord's Supper. And for this, I would like us to look at four main things. First, we're going to look at its origin, and then we're going to look at its principal elements. And then we're also going to talk about preparation that is needed to take the Lord's Supper. And lastly, we're going to talk about who should take the Lord's Supper. So in this video, I'm going to start by talking about the origin. So, what is the origin of the Lord's Supper? A long time ago, when the Israelites were in Egyptian bondage, there came a time when finally their many years of slavery came to an end. And during the final plague, which involved the death of many of the Egyptian children, God commanded the Israelites that they were going to prepare a lamb which was 1 year old. Then they would kill that lamb, get its blood and put it on the doorposts. And then in addition to that, they would eat bread which is unleavened, meaning without yeast. And they would also eat bitter herbs. And God told them that this was going to be something that they would do as a memorial. Okay, so we find this in Exodus chapter 12, and it's detailed there, and there's several elements to it. So there we find a mention of the blood of a lamb on the doorposts. We also find that they were told to eat the flesh of that lamb that had been killed, and also to eat unleavened bread, as well as to eat it with bitter herbs, which is a symbol of the bitterness of slavery, which also spiritually means the bitterness of sin. Alright, so in Exodus 12 verse 11, God said, "And thus shall you eat it, with your loins girded, your shoes on your feet, and your staff in your hand, and you shall eat it in haste. It is the Lord's Passover." They were supposed to eat this Passover in a hurry, because that very night Pharaoh would actually release them and let them go. And then we're told here that they would it was actually given this name, the Lord's Passover. So it was not Moses' Passover, it was not the Israelites' Passover, but it was the Lord's Passover. Now we know that the ones who would be passed over would actually be the children of Israel, the firstborns of the children of Israel. And we find that in the next text, which is verse 12 of Exodus 12. It says, "For I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast, and against all the gods of Egypt I will execute judgment. I am the Lord." So this name, Passover, means that God passed over the Israelites while the Egyptians were being smitten by death. And then the blood that they were commanded to put on their doorposts was a token of their deliverance. In verse 13 it says, "And the blood shall be to you for a token upon the houses where you are, and when I see the blood I will pass over you, and the plague shall not be upon you to destroy you when I smite the land of Egypt." Now, God told them to keep this as a memorial, something that they should keep on doing to remember this day when they were delivered. "And this day shall be unto you for a memorial, and you shall keep it a feast to the Lord throughout your generations. You shall keep it a feast by an ordinance forever." That is Exodus 12 verse 14. Now there were some other details that were included here. So this was going to be a feast. They will be keeping it as a feast. For how long? Here it says that they will do it forever. And in verse 16 we are told that 7 days shall you eat unleavened bread. Even the first day you shall put away leaven out of your houses. For whosoever eateth leavened bread from the first day until the 7th day, that soul shall be cut off from Israel. That's Exodus 12 verse 16. So here they're being told that apart from just observing the Passover, actually this Passover includes not eating bread that has yeast. Okay, but why? So the bread here is a symbol of God's deliverance. In Exodus 12 17, "And you shall observe the feast of unleavened bread, for in this self same day I have brought your armies out of the land of Egypt. Therefore shall you observe this day in your generations by an ordinance forever. So you see, God is telling them that don't eat any unleavened bread during this feast for 7 days, because this is a symbol of my deliverance to you. Now the big question here is, why unleavened bread? In 1 Corinthians 5 verse 6 to 8, the Apostle Paul tells us, your glorying is not good. Know ye not that a little leaven leaveneth the whole lump? Purge out therefore the old leaven, that you may be a new lump, as you are unleavened. For even Christ our Passover is sacrificed for us. Now the Apostle Paul here is talking to the Corinthians about a certain man that they were tolerating was committing fornication. And he's telling them that the more you tolerate this man with fornication, the more you're going to be affected yourselves. The more you tolerate this sin, the more it's going to spread out the way yeast spreads throughout the dough. And then he says, purge out this, because you are unleavened. And this means that leaven here is a symbol of sin. The yeast here is a symbol of sin. And that is why the bread that we're commanded to eat should not have had yeast with it. Therefore let us keep the feast, not with an old leaven, neither with the leaven of malice and wickedness, but with the unleavened bread of sincerity and truth. So you can see it there, that the leaven here represents sin, whereas unleavened bread means uncorrupted bread. So this is the origin of the Passover, and we find that there was a time when Jesus called his disciples to prepare for the Passover, and then he went there to sit with them. So you can see the settings, that there was this lamb that they had to kill, the blood was spread, and then there was bread also that they had to eat with that, and we see that this bread was to be unleavened. So join me in the next video, where we're now going to look at the 3 elements of the Lord's Passover.